Toy Mill by David Nickle and Karl Schroeder, as read by David Nickle. Chapter 2, A Night to Remember. The stars stood still above them, as Emily and Santa flew the world over. Emily had never been happier. It was a Christmas of frantic scrambling down chimneys behind Santa, whose great skeleton snapped and crunched to fit the tiniest aperture, some of which were too narrow for even Emily to pass. At the bottom of the larger chimneys, Emily watched Santa as his bones knitted and he painfully lurched to the base of a glittering tree and spewed gifts there from a great sack of green burlap that undulated with shifting boxes. Each box he would then arrange with meticulous care, whispering, "A truck, Jimmy Thorne, see how you like that," or "You thought I'd finished with you after last year's dollhouse, Jacqueline Jones," and a terrific cackle over a pink-wrapped box bigger than Emily. And then it would be the next house. Now the houses were all behind them. The runners drew white contrails like cuts across the deep blue sky, and she dreamily traced those lines away over the horizon, thinking of the vast web of such lines that she and Santa had made over the entire globe. The forests fell behind, replaced with glimmering ice. The sleigh careered over a range of saw-toothed mountains, then into a deep valley of black tundra patched with snow. At the center of this bowl rose a vast building. "The North Pole!" shrieked Santa, sending his whip twitching over the raw, foaming backs of his reindeer. The sleigh rocked as the reindeer scrambled madly against the frozen air, and for a moment they were all Emily could see, their wide and terror-struck eyes twisting in their emaciated sockets. "No!" Santa bellowed, whipping again. "Down to the pole! Down to the toy mill!" The reindeer disappeared as they arched downwards, and Emily felt a roller coaster lurch as the massive sleigh descended into free fall. Emily clutched at Santa's deep red greatcoat and stared ahead down at Santa's workshop. The building filled Emily's vision. 7 great smokestacks, black as the tundra where the fumes had cooked the brickwork, grew like spikes from the structure, which itself sprawled under green metal roofing into long and labyrinthine additions. Tarmac lots surrounded the buildings. The sleigh leveled out, and one of the smokestacks suddenly loomed before them. Above, a plume of soot climbed high into the Arctic night, and a volcanic rumbling grew louder by the second. "Damn you!" Santa screamed, and his whip cracked like a thunderbolt. "Up!" Snap! "Higher!" Snap! "Away!" The sleigh was enveloped in black smoke. It got into Emily's eyes and made her cry, but when she breathed it for another sob, it became impossible even to weep. The blackness passed, and she blinked away the filth. The runners hit hard against tarmac with a butcher shop crunch. There were in a space bounded by walls, at the top of which ice-choked green metal eaves frowned over dark windows. Higher still, the aurora borealis sputtered and died. The sleigh skidded to a halt in a shower of blue sparks, describing a twisting half-circle around the stationary reindeer and pulling 3 of them to the ground. There was a terrible shrieking, and then silence, broken only by the distant hum of machinery. Santa Claus leaned close to Emily and grinned a ghastly grin into her eyes. "Welcome to the North Pole, little elf," he giggled in a small and girlish voice. "Merry Christmas! Yes, Merry, Merry Christmas!" With a frantic scrambling and pattering of small feet, a mob of elves surrounded the sleigh. Santa reared high in his seat and glared at them. The crowd parted, and 3 of the elves approached. One held a shabby blue towel. Santa grabbed it and mopped his face where the icicles were starting to droop. The second elf held out a fat brown cigar, and the third a blue silk smoking jacket. With a flourish, Santa threw aside his greatcoat, blinding Emily. She pushed the smelly cloth away, and Santa reappeared, wrapped in blue. He bent and touched the end of his cigar to one of the smoking runners. Then, contentedly, he drew a deep breath and exuded a vast miasma of gritty grey smoke. Santa Claus swatted his 3 helpers away with a broad arc of his palm, making even Emily duck involuntarily. But Santa's arm wheeled back, and he snatched one of Emily's new ears between 2 fingers. He took a long, choking drag on his cigar and grinned down at her. Smoke rolled from his nostrils as he spoke. Well, little elf, Christmas year-round, eh? Ha ha! Christmas year-round is just what you'll get. Santa turned to the other elves, who were backing surreptitiously clear of his impressive reach. He snarled at them. Yes, elves, move off! Back to work! One new elf doesn't mean long lunches for you lot! No, no, no! Back to the lines! Back to the shifts, by damn! The elves, who had been moving that way anyway, now turned and ran, their thin, bent legs carrying them in terrified sprints. Santa clamped his teeth around his cigar and strode in the opposite direction, dragging Emily behind him. They made a jog to the left between a pair of tall buildings, walked down a narrow alleyway choked with icicles as wide as Emily, and finally emerged in a wide courtyard. This was lined with sheet metal huts protruding from the brickwork. At the end was a small wall with a single gigantic doorway. The roar of the mill was deafening. Santa quickened his pace, pausing only once to drop his spent cigar, and soon they were at the door. Christmas all the time! Santa bellowed as the door swung open. His cackling was cut short by a tide of oily smoke. Emily held the greatcoat to her face, but it did no good. Through tears and acid coughs, she beheld the toy mill. Dazzling light and knife-edged shadows cut through a vast space, filled with huge machines in rows like headstones. Coils of cable drooled down from catwalks festooned with pipes and valves. The catwalks crossed and recrossed, up and up in successive layers, until they were hidden in darkness, a great iron spiderweb. This is it, Santa waved proudly. Your new home. What do you think of it, hey, little elf? It's dreadful. Yes. The melting icicles in Santa's beard sparkled in radiance of his glowing pride. And it's just what you wanted.